Welcome back to The Haunted Beard. Today I'm going to be talking about Ti West's House of the Devil. His movie X is just dropped on video on demand. I want to be bringing a review for that soon, so I figured and kind of leading up to it, I would talk about another Ti West movie. So House of the Devil came out 2009, and it is the story of a girl who needs to get money so she for her new apartment, so she signs up for a babysitting gig and visits what happens to be the House of the Devil. And that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. Some of the highlights or some of the positives is this movie is set in the 80s. And so they do a really good job of kind of establishing that setting, that time period. The film feels authentic. It just everything with some of the musical choices are great. Just the production design, the costuming, and things like that. It overall just really has an 80s presence and quality to it that is really a highlight and probably one of the best aspects of the film. It does some things that were pretty popular in 80s horror movies in terms of just kind of shot selection, composition, things like that. Some of the zooms that are pretty obvious zooms with the camera zooming in onto something. Modern films would do more of a dolly, and you can actually tell the difference. So just kind of little things like that really sort of add to that authentic 80s vibe. The what I mainly want to focus on is this. I want to talk about sort of the slow burn because this film is often kind of credited with being sort of a slow burn thrill into a horror movie. And I actually want to read a quote from Alfred Hitchcock that is going to kind of get me into a little bit more of what I want to talk about. So this is what he says. He says, "There's a distinct difference between suspense and surprise." And then he gives an example of, in a movie, if a bomb explodes, that's a surprise. None of the characters knew, and we, the audience, didn't know, but a bomb explodes, and that's a surprise. But he said suspense is when we, as the audience, know there's a bomb in the room where the characters are, but they don't know, and we know the bomb is getting ready to go off. That's suspense. And so here's what he says. In the first case, we have given the public 15 seconds of surprise at the moment of the explosion. In the second, we have provided them with 15 minutes of suspense. The conclusion is that whenever possible, the public must be informed, except when the surprise is a twist. That is, when the unexpected ending is, in itself, the highlight of the story. All right, so I read you a quote on Alfred Hitchcock talking about suspense, but I think it kind of directly relates to kind of the overall point that I want to make in talking about this movie, is how it handles sort of the slow build, the slow burn, and the suspense. And I think it does well to a degree, but it leaves more to be desired. Now, there is a surprise in this movie. First of all, the first 25 minutes don't really do a whole lot. I think some of the slow burn in the build-up is not really beneficial or helpful in terms of developing the story further and progressing that, or doing any sort of character development or anything like that. Our main character, we don't really learn a whole lot about her other than she's just a college student who needs money to pay for her new apartment. And it establishes a little bit of a relationship between her and a friend, but there's none of their sort of relationship or none of their conversations really have to do with much. They're not really that interesting. And so there's not really much there between the main lead and her friend. So the first 25 minutes, it takes 25 minutes for her to get to the House of the Devil. And then, now there is a surprise that happens about 35 to 40 minutes in the movie. And at that point, again, there hasn't really been anything much that's been established. Again, beyond just knowing this character is a college student who needs some money, we don't really know much past that. And so it's slower in getting to go in getting going, and then it hits us with a surprise about 35 to 40 minutes in, which kind of jolts the movie and sort of gives us some life. And then we get some, you know, suspense, but there's not really anything that the bomb, so to speak, in Hitchcock's example, hasn't been revealed to us. And so a lot of the so-called suspense or slow burn is is not really consequential. It's not really burning towards anything because nothing has really been revealed. And so I feel like a lot of the kind of the slow build is really inconsequential, and it doesn't really, again, do anything to develop the story or develop any of the characters and move the story forward. Uh, there's a lot of just the girl kind of walking around the house, not really doing a whole lot. There's a sequence where she puts on her tape cassette player with her headphones and kind of dances around the house listening to, some 80s music. And but again, we haven't seen the bomb, if I could kind of use again that illustration. So it's almost like the fuse hasn't even been lit yet, and so it's just kind of a whole lot of nothing for the most part. And then we finally do get to see the bomb, but it's not until I think a little bit over an hour into the movie. And once the bomb is revealed, I'll just continue to keep calling it that. That's when the suspense kind of really starts to build, and there is some good suspense building here. And I like how Ti West uh, shot these sequences. I like some of the music here. It's very kind of subtle and understated. It just he kind of shows a lot of restraint as he's just kind of slowly starting to build that suspense, because now we actually see sort of what we're working towards and what we're working with. And and so there is some good suspense building after that point. I like how he films it, just with he kind of uses some more wide shots, some longer takes that just kind of get us to kind of explore the surroundings as we're kind of looking around, because is there something behind the corners or something over there, and just kind of these more slower, gradual, subtle camera movements that almost kind of lull you into this false sense of security. And that's when it really kind of starts to grab you. I guess unfortunately, though, there's only about 10 to maybe 15 minutes of sort of true suspense building before, I'll just say, the bomb explodes and we really see, we get the explosion. And so to me, it's almost a little, it's almost maybe a little too late. And so I think really just in conclusion overall, this is a 95 minute film that I think would have been better suited as sort of like a 30 to 40 minute short. I think there's a lot there that's just really kind of inconsequential and doesn't really serve to kind of, again, sort of build the suspense. It's just kind of a lot of empty, slow burn that doesn't really burn towards anything. And so that was kind of my main complaint with it. But I do think that there's still some good stuff here and some stuff to appreciate. So with all that being said, I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. So that is The House of the Devil. And I don't know exactly what I'll be bringing you next. I'm looking at possibly another Ti West film, but we'll see. So stay tuned for whatever comes next on The Haunted Beard. We will see you then.